Good evening. Welcome to Wonderfully Whole Conversations. This is a platform to highlight men and women who are living a wonderfully whole lifestyle and who are impacting their generation and generations to come by who they are and their message. Today, I am so happy and excited to have Dr. Annie B. Wilder on. She's a mighty woman of God and a good friend. God divinely connected us together. My husband and I are recipients of her love and kindness. A brilliant woman, but yet a very humble individual. Welcome, Dr. Annie.
Oh, hello, hello. So
Hi.
excited to be here with you.
I'm so happy to have you. Thank you for taking the time off from your busy schedule to be on with us tonight. Now,
Well,
our topic today is transformation, and we are focusing on transforming women's lives. Before we jump in to our discussion or conversation, I want to read Dr. Annie's bio. Dr. Wilder is an author, an ordained gospel minister, a licensed clinical Christian counselor, and frequent presenter at women's retreats, churches, and conferences. She's a founder of the Uncommon Counseling LLC, in parentheses, Unmasking the Inner You practice, focusing on the whole person, body, soul, and spirit. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, she has utilized free conferencing and other social media outlets to facilitating weekly positive self-esteem, domestic violence, sexual assault support groups, counseling sessions, and personal enrichment segments. Individuals attending any of Dr. Wilder's sessions, private and or public, gain practical and insightful teachings resulting in personal empowerment. Dr. Annie Wilder earned a doctorate of philosophy from Jacksonville Theological Seminary, master's degrees in industrial engineering and community psychology from the University of New Haven, and a BS degree in mathematics from Sacred Heart University. She holds advanced certifications in the areas of temperament counseling, pastoral counseling, death and grief therapy, cognitive therapy, and crisis and abuse therapy. Before retiring, Dr. Wilder worked as a manufacturing engineer. She's a mother, a grandmother, and great grandmother. She resides in Old Saybrook, Connecticut. Dr. Annie, oh my gosh, just reading your bio. Oh, it is such a list of accomplishments. You invested a lot in educating yourself.
mhm.
How did you start on this journey? Share before we go into the topic. Share why you invested so much in so many degrees. You have a degree in industrial engineering, you have a doctorate in philosophy, you have so many degrees. What started you on this journey?
Well, first of all, the earlier degrees in mathematics and engineering was about tapping into the things I loved doing as I was growing up in school. And hey, I needed to be able to take care of my family. So, going back to school, getting a degree in mathematics and then the engineering and working as an engineer. That was all about utilizing those skills that I had gained throughout the time. And like I say, to provide for my family. And then as
Yes.
time went on and God, began to move me in other areas, then came the ministry after I accepted Christ in my life. Then I started in the ministry and then became pastor. And as becoming a pastor, I can tell you, I knew God was doing a work in the lives of the people I was working with, but yet it was like a recycling door. And at that point, my belief was, if God did it, it's done, you know?
Yes.
And so it was puzzling me. So I decided to go back to the university to study some of the behavior psychology type things to find out more about what else goes on in human beings. And I thought it was me. I thought it was my doing. But as time went on, we realized it was really God doing it and broadening me even more to move me into where I am now. Mm-hmm.
So you really wanted to go deeper to help individuals, because you see people going in and out the church and they still have the same kind of problems, even they get prayed for, but there's more work. So you pursued a degree in psychology, okay? Now, so you really wanted to pursue counseling to help individuals with their lives.
Actually, I didn't want to pursue counseling. I just wanted to go back and learn some of the dynamics about human behavior. That
Yes.
I just wanted to study for me to understand, about human behavior. It turned out that I got to a point that I had to matriculate. At first, it was like, oh, I just want to learn this, and let me study this course and this course and this course, and finally got to the point that I had accumulated enough courses that they were saying to me, you have to matriculate if you want to continue. So definitely that's what I did. I matriculated, and then I got my, it required me to do an internship,
Mm-hmm.
and that was something all along I had said, I don't need to do that. I have this degree. I have a good job. I don't need to do that. I don't want to do that. But then in order to keep studying, it was part of the whole process.
Yes.
And because of that process, what happened, without going into a lot of detail, what happened was my internship turned out to be at a women's, a place that I'm still working. It turned out to be in an organization that caters to domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
So I entered in there as a student, and I haven't left. I have not left there, because after my internship was over, they asked me if I wanted to continue to do what I was doing, which was meeting with the women, making those hospital runs, dealing with people with domestic violence and so forth. And so they asked me if I wanted to continue to do those sessions. And I
Yes.
did. God had already moved on my heart that I wanted to do it so badly. And that door opened, and I've still been there doing that twice a week now, meeting with the women twice a week, helping them through those issues of domestic violence or abuse altogether, and building their self-esteem and sexual assault. Mm-hmm. So I'm still there.
How many years, since
That
you started?
That's been 17, 18 years. I
Wow.
went here in 2002 as a student, and I started actually employed there in 2003.
So every week you have a group of women that you're helping who have backgrounds in domestic violence and sexual assaults, and also they have self-esteem problems. So, I wanted to go into your counseling business, but as we are here now, I want you to talk a little bit more about how you help these women. They come in with all this baggage. How do you help them, Dr. Annie?
What happens is they often they come because of DV, because of domestic violence or sexual assault. They come because they're having problems in those areas. All right. So that's
Yes.
what gives them to find their way to my group. Every so often they'll find their way because they realize they need to work on their self-esteem. So they've done research, search the web and whatever. So they'll find their way to my group. Okay.
Yes.
But
Yes.
usually they walk in the door broken, and they walk in the door all the ways broken, but they walk in the door still. Some of them are still with their abusers. Some of them they're separated from their abusers, but
Mm-hmm.
either way, they're walking in still confused about what happened. They walk
Yes.
in still, many times they have no voice of their own because they've stayed in an abusive situation
For
so
so
long.
long.
They,
Yes.
I can say, I like to say they've lost themselves, but sometimes they never knew who they were.
Oh my
Because
God.
many times they entered into these romantic relationships at an early age in their lives, at the
Mm,
time wherein they should have been working on finding out who they
who
were,
they are. Yes.
finding out their own identity, establishing their identity. But
Mm-hmm.
instead, because of multiple issues, they ended up in these romantic relationships, which they thought was the answer to their problems. But
Mm,
and some of them have stayed a long time, still thinking that this is the answer. I got to work on this relationship. When this relationship works, it'll be perfect and everything. And they've just completely never identified who they were, got to understand who they were, or they
yes.
lost who they were. They never
Mm-hmm.
realized they had choices. Okay. And so it's this whole gamut of situations that walk in to the group.
Yes.
Okay. And
Mm,
so my approach in the group is although we advertise as self-esteem domestic violence, all right, and many times
mm-hmm.
they come in from the domestic violence, but what I make them aware of is I'm going to teach you the dynamics of domestic violence. I'm going to teach you all about it. We're going to listen to you and everything. But my
Mm-hmm.
focus is going to be on building your self-esteem. Because if I can
Beautiful.
get you to fall in love with you, if I can get you to get your voice, if I can get you to understand you have choices, if I can get you to understand you have rights, if I can get you to understand about boundaries and all of those things, in other words, learn you, capture you,
Yes.
then you'll be able to make better choices going forward with relationships.
That is wonderful. Now, in your bio, you focus on temperament counseling. How
Mhm.
does that work with work, to help the woman? Do
Okay,
you use that kind of counseling to help them? I know you went through, to focus on themselves, to build self-esteem. Do
mhm,
you use that kind of therapy with them in your group session?
mhm. I don't do it right, but naturally it's me and those dynamics of my training, my experiences. It helps me to help them.
Yes.
Okay. But that's a whole different dynamic or tool that I actually use basically for my individual counseling.
Okay.
Okay. But I utilize, uh, in other words, I mean, because of temperament, many times I can tell. One thing that's very important in my groups is for people to feel accepted,
Mm,
feel loved, not
yeah.
criticized. But you got to, but the point about human nature, human behavior, is you have all of these different temperaments and behaviors. Some are quiet, some want to be involved. Some are just overly involved. They'll talk, 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 talk. And then there's some that are so deep in denial and everything. Okay. But my training helps me to identify who I'm dealing with. So with
Beautiful.
that, it helps me to meet them. For instance, there's one temperament that will sit and not say a word, but they're longing to be involved. They want to
Mhm.
be involved, okay? But they won't say anything, okay?
Mhm.
So for me to recognize that, that somewhere along the way, I will use my skills to say to them. In other words, you got to call them by name. You can
Yeah.
say all night, "Hey, anybody want to talk? You want to tell us your story, whatever?" But they won't say a word.
Mm, yes.
Okay. So with my skills, recognizing, hey, this is probably that's probably what's going on. I'll get to a point and I'll say, oh, would you like to talk? We'd love to hear from you. Would you like to,
Mhm.
not forced to, but we'd love to hear from you. Now, I just gave them a personal invitation. It wasn't like all night saying, anybody want to talk.
And nobody volunteers.
I go directly to them, and it's like now it's a whole new person comes alive there, So throughout my sessions, my training does help me with that, to be able to identify that and so on and so forth. It also helps me to call out people. Like to when I sometimes start, just every once in a while I'll just go around the table and identify stress that I see in them.
Yes.
And some that is because of the skills that I have, and the things that they've said and done in the group. I can say, well, you have this gift going for you. And I go around the table and I call each one of them and give them something. I know it's not church. You would call it in church prophesying.
Yes, yes.
In my group, I can't call it that. And that's not what I'm doing. I'm just simply letting them know that they're important. They have worth. They have purpose. They have something to offer. Because in their previous situations, they never came to understand that. They've been beaten down. They've been criticized and all of those things so much until they're thinking they have no worth. No abilities, no purpose, And so my job, the way I receive my job, is to help build them up. Many times, like I said, to pull them back from point zero. Because if they've been in one of those relationships from a teenager to now mid-30s or 40s, that's most of their lives.
Yes.
So sometimes I got to build them up from ground zero. Okay. And then other times we can come in at a different place and move on. So I'm dealing with the whole gamut of personalities, temperament, situations. And it gets exciting. And I'm so grateful to God for the opportunity.
Now, with these women, what is the goal of transformation? You start from one point. You want to see them have healthy self-esteem. You want to see some of them come out of their abuse or situations. So there's a goal. You're taking them from one step to another step until they are free. Now, some of the women that you have worked with, Dr. Annie, could you share like a testimony of someone who was in the middle of a very abusive situation and you helped them? Give us like a testimony, just a testimony how you brought a couple of them out of it. They came in broken. Now, because of your group, they are transformed. They're becoming whole. Give us some, test cases of women that you have worked with and you have seen them come out of these situations. Could you share that with us?
Well, I have one that is written for me. I have a couple, but I don't know whether I'll go there or not. I don't think she will mind, but I have one that definitely does not mind. I have her permission to share. I won't call her name, but I have permission to tell her story. Okay. And yes, I have one that came into the group, and she when she came in, she was hurting and she was still in her relationship. She was still in the relationship, abusive relationship. Okay. And so she had a good job already. So it wasn't a matter, many times they don't have finances. That's one of the reasons people stay in these things. Okay.
Yes.
But she had a good job and a good reputation, but she had no self-esteem, low self-esteem. Okay. And so she was in this relationship. And I think her testimony was the first night she came in, I can't say, and I don't have her paper before me because I didn't know we were going there, but she actually wrote it out for us, okay?
Yes.
She's actually gone out on a workshop with me. Oh, and that was just outstanding. I did a workshop around her life. And in the end, I said to the people, I said, would you like to meet the person that this story is based on? And they said, oh, yes. and
Mm-hmm.
she was there. And she stood up and the place just went, you know. So anyway, that was another level of her growth, another level of her
Yes.
self-esteem. Okay. But my point is she finally broke away from that relationship. She kept coming to the meeting. And this is the point. Okay. In the meeting, I give handouts. We talk. I share written handouts. And that woman took herself a 3-ring binder and she would add those handouts. And every week she would come to it. It was like coming to school. And that's
Mm.
exactly what she would say. I'm going to my class. And then the
She's one
next
of your perfect students.
she was. And then the next day she'd go back to her job. And because they knew she was coming, it got reinforced because they would be waiting to hear what she had learned the night before.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome. And so she was an example for the group, you know, because others started getting their notebooks as well. And she stayed with it until finally she got strength enough that when another situation came, you know, another outburst came, she was
Yes.
able to, scared, yes, frightened, and yes, frightened, but she was able to step away from it. And she's built a beautiful um, home for herself, she and her children. And she's just awesome. She's just absolutely awesome. Okay. But it was
Mm-hmm.
coming to the group, taking the information, applying the information, and being
Yes.
honest. For some things I say, people don't believe it. And she was just able to be honest because that's one thing. And she looked at me and she said, I don't believe that. You know, I'd say to her, I'd like to say,
Yes.
I said, that person you're giving so much credit to, you're saying they're so perfect and they got everything going on for them.
Mm.
I say, they don't, honey. They don't. You're just believing it because they're making you believe it. I'm telling you, they don't. And I remember one night she looked at me, she says, Miss Annie or Dr. Annie, you know, I got a lot of names, okay? She said, she goes, I hope so. She said, but I just can't believe that. I said, it's okay. Well, it came to be so that she came back and said, I never would have believed that. I didn't believe it.
Mm.
Did. And now this is what I say to people. I want to say, first of all, we're not about breaking up marriages. We're not about breaking up relationships, except
Beautiful.
if you're being physically abused.
To leave
I
that.
beg you to get to a safe place. Now, I didn't say run to the courthouse for a divorce or anything. I said get to a safe place. That means come to groups like mine, go to counseling, do whatever you have to do to discover who you are, get your voice, get your strength, okay? Your identity. And if that party wants you, they'll do the same thing. And
Yes.
then you'll be able to come back together and begin to work in a more healthy situation,
That,
okay?
that, that is such great counsel, Dr. Annie. And the case study that you pointed out, because I like it because you said that she had a good job. Some people are in abusive situations. They have a great career,
Mhm,
but they have low self esteem, and they in these abusive situations
mhm,
that they need to come out of. But so that one is very good because a lot of times people only think people are in abuse situations because they don't have money or what, but there are so many different scenarios. And I
mhm,
hope anybody who is listening that if they are in some kind of situation like that, that they would find help. There is help out there. Yeah, you know, with your practice, with everything that you're doing.
mhm.
Now, um, there are some lives that seems like it is like they can't get out of it. How many situations or how many lives that you have encountered that they seem like they're going and they're coming back, they're going and they're coming back, they seem stuck in
Mhm.
that even though they're getting they came for help, but they're not utilizing the help. How do you treat those individuals? So of course, you let them to keep coming. How do you navigate, the situation with them? Do you call them aside privately, or you still continue with the group?
Oh, no, no. The whole thing about the group is, first of all, it's loving, it's accepting. And one of the main things is we say, you're not going to compare yourself to anybody else.
I like,
And
yes,
it's not a destination, it's a journey.
I love it. I
Okay.
love it.
So even when you're like this young woman that I'm referring to, she's doing really well, but there's still more levels.
Yes,
You
I
know,
love it.
the work that I do in those groups go across the whole gamut of life. It doesn't stop with that romantic relationship. Some of the people that come into my group, their abuser is their parent, maybe their parent or their children, or
Beautiful.
their employer. But the
Mm,
dynamics are the same. If I can get you strong enough to know that you're somebody, okay, and you know how to set boundaries and you're not so easily intimidated. In other words, I get them from focusing on that abuser. Because when they come in, when I say they have no voice, everything is about the abuser. And
mm.
it's either everything he or she has said, because some of the women that come, they're the abuser, okay? But sometimes they're everything they're talking about is what they said, never what they the person
They lost their voice.
right. And
Hmm.
then so first of all, to get them from there to start talking and being honest and talk about themselves,
Hmm.
then we can begin to move on, but it is a process.
It's a process.
Yes. So even those that, and some of them won't come out of it. Some of them
Hmm.
are just like, the same people we encounter in church. They found a comfortable place. And though let me back that up. It's not comfortable, it's familiar.
Hmm.
It's bad, okay, but it's familiar. But they fear have them so gripped, fear of going into the unknown, that they would rather stay in a bad familiar relationship than to step out in the unknown. So some of them, they won't move, but that's okay. If they keep coming, hey, just keep building them up.
Yes, one day they something might just click, and
Yes.
they get it. And I like this, Dr. Annie, because sometimes even in churches, people hide,
Hmm.
or they go for prayer
Hmm.
and they get prayed for, but they're still stuck. They're not coming into their identity of knowing that they're accepted by God. And when you said that it's a process,
It is a process.
it's time. It's not, people think it's like a microwave. You go for prayer and everything changes. But when you come to your group, these women come to your group, they spend weeks, they learn, they grow, they get stronger. You have them focus on building them who they are, accepting who they are and build from there. And I love it.
Hmm.
Based on your experience, is there an age or person where a person could reach and there's no hope for transformation? Is in basis on your experience?
I don't believe so. I've
Good,
had I have
good.
teenagers all the way up to great great grandmothers. I don't know whether I don't know how many greats out there, okay?
Mhm.
But anyway, in their 80s that have come to my group. Okay. Sometimes they just need reassuring. Everybody's not like really, really low. Some people, I've had people walk into the group that because they had tried so many things. There's a term called learned helplessness. In other words, it
Mhm.
means that they've tried this and they tried that and they tried that and it didn't work. So they end up feeling helpless, hopeless, total despair, feeling like there's no hope for me. So the next thing for them is like, what's the use in living? So I've had a number of people that come into my group that felt like, I just want to die. You know,
Mm.
I want to die. And they happen to stumble into to my group, our group, okay? And one thing that I teach the women is, and they've learned, and I love the group, I love the women, is that the same courtesies that you received when you walked in, we now extend them out to the next person. So
Yes.
the minute you walk into our group, and you identify yourself, we applaud you. And we tell them why. We're applauding you because this isn't an easy thing to do, to come into a group.
Yes. Yes.
So you just made your first very important step to helping yourself. Okay.
Beautiful.
So my point is, there are times that they've come in, they're so low, and they start talking, and everybody just listens. And that's the first time that person had anybody to let them cry and let them express how they're feeling, and just listen to them. Not tell them they got to shut up, not telling them they're crazy or anything. We just listen. And in my groups, and again, the women know it, we have tissues. When we walk in the room every week, which right now we're not in the room, but when we were meeting, the first thing is everybody check out where are the boxes of tissues. They got to be strategically placed so that anybody that look like they want to cry or start crying, somebody's making sure they got a tissue.
Yes, yes.
And that is to let them know it's okay. It's part of the healing process.
Becoming their sisters' keepers.
Yes.
Wonderful.
So when I've had people walk in feeling like life is over for me, I just want to die, and they start talking, everybody just listens. Like, what is it, E.F. Hutton? You just and you listen. And I've had some of those, and they're still with me. Great supporters, and gone on out. You say, what happened to them? They got control of their lives. They went on out. They got away from the abusive situation. They built a life for themselves, and now they're just there to help other people and still building. I have a number of those cases.
So these are success stories of this group that you have been doing for the last 17 to 18 years. This is just wonderful. You're seeing broken lives becoming whole, and this is why I wanted you to come on, because this is what Wonderfully Whole is all about. We have to be whole in spirit, soul, and body. And people out there are there's so many broken people, but there's hope. There's help. Now, I know the time is moving, and I want to ask you so many questions. I probably would need you to come back again. Now, you wrote 2 books. I want you to go into these 2 books, because these 2 books are about transformation. We talk a little bit about transformation with women lives. And I even wanted to ask you if you work with men too, but we'll come to that. We'll talk a little bit about your books, because your books are great.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that feedback. And though my first book, okay, I think I got it in the scene. My first book is entitled On the Other Side of Bitter.
Yes.
And the subtitle is A Look into Naomi's Heart. Okay. And so though it was written in 2012, people are still reading it and getting healing and deliverance. And I just get so excited every time I get a report. But this book is all about just what we're talking about. This woman, most of you know, most of the audience know about the book of Ruth.
Yes, okay? This is good.
But everybody focuses on Ruth, the damsel, you know the story, and you know how people feel. But the question is, we're not in this world by ourselves, and we're not navigating through life by ourselves. But often we are dealing with people that, because they're not saying anything, we miss the fact that they're hurting. Just like you just said, yes, the group is for anybody that wants to come. All right. And we love on them, we accept them, and God has given me that ability to kind of look in and even bring them to the point to be honest, because they do come in, they have counselors or whatever. And I mean, if they come to me for a while and I'm not hearing any change, I just come right out and ask them. I say, what are you saying to your counselor? I'm not hearing any change in your life.
Yes.
And see, that's giving them permission as well. Because some of them don't realize that I'm supposed to be really honest and raw with my counselor. And so when I
Mhm.
started saying that to them, I say, no, honey, you got to tell them. They can't read your mind. You got to
Mhm.
talk to them and be honest. So anyway, so we deal with people like that, all of us, you know,
Yes.
all of us do. And so that's why this book was written. The Lord said to me, don't focus on Ruth, focus on the woman that was behind Ruth. Naomi, focus on her. And when I started digging into that, okay, we find this woman that had reached a point in her life, as you said earlier, that was total despair, feeling
Mm.
hopeless, helpless, and to the point that she herself, and I find this so intriguing, she herself said, don't call me by my name. My name means pleasant, and I'm not a pleasant woman. I'm bitter, you know? And so she herself, you know, we get angry when people call us out of our names. But she
Yes.
was telling
That's
them,
true.
don't
That's
call
true.
me by my name. Call me what? Mara, meaning bitter. Because
Bitter. Yes.
okay. But we find here the point about this book is again, as we walk through her life, walk through the stages, the grief. She had to go through grief because she had lost her husband. She had lost her sons. Okay. And so she was grieving. And but I dare to believe she was grieving before then because she had left her home following her husband. And
Yes.
that's the place where she had her identity before.
Mm-hmm.
So I dare to believe that she was never completely happy in the first place
In the strange land.
in a
Yeah.
strange land. So now she was returning, but she was had to grieve and get caught up. And then my favorite chapter in there is when she woke up one day, I say it that way, and she looked at Ruth, who had followed her, and
Mm-hmm.
she said to Ruth, shall I find rest for you? In other words, time is out for me to focus on me, for me to be grieving, for me to be hurting. I'm better now. So now I'm going to turn my attention to helping you, which meant,
Yes.
which
Yes.
meant she had so much yet to offer.
And this is what I like about that book, because as you said, everybody focus on Ruth, but here's an older woman in pain, and then she has so much to offer.
So much. But she was hurting so badly, she was ready to just give it all up.
Yes.
But when she went through that process of transformation, having time to grieve, having time to, you know, just spend times to herself and with Ruth or whatever, okay, then the
Hmm.
light came on again. You know, the light bulb came on again. And
Yes. It's never too late.
yeah, she started employing all of that she had to offer, and that's what helped Ruth move into what people admire so much. It wasn't that Ruth knew so much, it was that Ruth was hooked up with this
Yes.
woman who had all this to offer.
This is so wonderful, Dr. Annie. Oh my gosh.
And so that's the gist of this book. And but the way I write based on the dialogue of the text, but I bring out all those aspects that pertain to life.
Yes.
You know, it's like bringing out the aspects of life. For instance, you know, the part about forgiveness. You know, we know about that. I put that in the book. Okay. What else? Marriage,
But
constant, you know, grief, and all of that. It's in the book. Those processes.
yes,
That,
yes. And this is a good time to people to buy the book, because some people are going through a lot of grief
mhm,
because of the pandemic. They have lost loved ones. They
mhm,
even lost careers. There are a lot of grief that
mhm.
people are going through. So anybody listening to this, you tell us how to get that book. But you wrote a second book, Dr. Annie. Talk
Yes,
a little bit, and it's all about transformation. Share a little bit about that.
yes. Okay, I got it in the screen. This one is called Interrupted to Be. And yet,
Yes.
this is a shepherd's boy's journey to kingship. And anybody that's in the church already know where that's coming from. It's about the early life of David. Okay, the early
Yes.
years of David. He had such a long history, but in this book I go from the time of his youth, okay, to the time that he
Uh,
took, okay, because that's the point. And this book, I say in the back, it is not a book, a how-to book. It's a God can book. So in other words, I'm not listing point one, point two, point three. I'm saying read this book, and we walk through David's life from the time, his early life, to the time that he finally made it to take that throne, all that he went through, which all the things that we just explained, which answers your question. No, I don't work with just women. I work with men, but my groups are women. But in my private counseling is both. Okay.
Yes.
Women and couples. Okay. So this is an example of an individual having to, he was anointed as a teenager. Okay. But it took him all those years before,
Yes.
but all the steps in between, being used, being abused, again, staying in a relationship with the king, couldn't accept the fact that the king wanted to kill him. This is the same
Mm-hmm.
thing that happens in those abusive relationships. How can this person who say they love me want to hurt me? They didn't mean it. They said they didn't mean it. No, they didn't mean it. When they're running around on me and cheating on me, no, they're not really meaning to do that. It must be something I'm doing wrong. I must
Yes.
be the one. It's all my fault. Well, we
Yes.
find all of that with David. It took David, I don't know how long specifically. It was 15 attempts on his life from Saul before he finally accepted the fact that he really had to leave that country where Saul had all that authority over.
Great insight. Great insight in that book.
It's so exciting. I had one woman read the book when I first published it, and she called me. She said, I cried all the way through it.
Mm.
Because when you start seeing yourself and recognizing yourself in here, what you're doing, what you have allowed, how you've allowed yourself to be treated, not seeing the situation the way it really is, it does. Okay.
Yes.
But initially, my impact initially was interrupted to be was all about the fact that in life, there are those times that our lives are interrupted. Sometimes we're just sailing right along, promotions, money, relationships, and everything. And we just think we got it all going on. And then all of a sudden, something happens. And we begin to say, what happened? But many times I believe, and that's what I put in the book, God allows the interruption because he has something better for us. But if
Beautiful.
he allowed us to walk into it right now with some of these things that we don't even realize are still on us, that we would make a shipwreck. So he
Yes.
allows the interruption for us to go back and uncover some of those things and get them straightened out so that the enemy will not have that to
This
hang
is
over our
great.
heads anymore.
This is great. Dr. Annie, this is such great information. And I pray that people will buy the book or for themselves or for a friend because, as you said, interrupted to be. God has had greater things for David and greater things for our lives, but there are things that are hidden that He needs to pull out of us. So when we get to the destination that He has for us, the enemy has nothing in us. So this is really beautiful. Now I want to talk a little bit about why did you have a counseling practice, uncommon counseling,
Mhm.
unmasking the inner you. Why did you call it that name? Just share a
Well,
little bit about that.
the reason was because that my approach is uncommon. My approach is different from the traditional counseling. My approach is, first of all, my approach is based on temperament, as I've said before. Okay, and temperament is learning, what God made, what gifts and all, and talents and all that He put in us,
Yes,
traits He put in us. The problem is that that's called temperament, and that's inborn. Psalm
yes,
39, God put it in us. We come forth from our mother's womb and we start interacting with our environment, man and environment. So we
mhm,
call it a ladder, okay? So now we just moved into what we call um, learned behavior, what we learn from people around about us. Okay.
mhm,
then we move, and that's called really character. It's called character, but it's learned behavior, right?
Yes.
And so then we move on up from there, and we get into the area of what we call personality, and that's where the mask is. That's where we're living. That's where we are right now. Okay, wearing that mask. What do I need to do to get this job? What do I need to do to win that person? What do I need to how look when I go into here and into there? How do I need to talk? But the problem is when you're wearing a mask, it gets hot. We know that. We've been experiencing
Yeah,
it, right?
yeah. During this pandemic.
And it causes stress and anxiety. I mean,
Yes.
I'm in the store sometimes, and it's like I just have to talk myself down because I want to run and scream, wearing that
Yeah.
mask. So, but we do that. And like I say, people call it personality. It is personality. It is personality, okay? But
Hmm.
it's a mask. And like I say, the problem is that it gets hot and we can't hold on to it forever. Oh, that's why many people having stress and anxiety in their lives personally, and they're causing other people to be stressed out because of their lives. So my job, what I do, while I call it uncommon counseling, is I get this profile, which they work with me to get. It's a questionnaire. I get their profile. It's based on Christian, a Christian background, along with all of the secular. It's just that the Christian part got added to that. Okay, so in other
Yes.
words, it's more effective. And then I begin to teach them their temperament. While I'm teaching them their temperament, what God made them, how they're supposed to be, their purpose, their goal, their place in the body of Christ, they're talking. So I get to understand how they steered away, how they've gotten off course. And
Hmm.
so through all of that, we're uncovering the mask, the inner you. The inner you is coming forth. The
To bring
mask
it.
is coming off.
Yes.
Mhm.
You get into the real person.
The real person. So that's why it's uncommon counseling, but I couldn't leave that off, unmasking the inner you, because that's what we're doing. We're going to uncover that person that's gotten covered up.
Yes. Yes. And help
Mhm.
them find their identity,
Yeah.
their
And
true identity.
sometimes the very first visit, people leave again the same way, feeling like, oh my God,
Mm.
that they've been so helped and receive a measure of deliverance from the very first visit. And
Yes.
the other aspect of it, with this, I'm able to help them and get into the root of the problem faster,
Yes.
than the traditional counseling. Mhm.
So I see something, Dr. Annie. The, the Lord had you go to school to get certain dynamics, to learn certain stuff, but also the spiritual insight come together in your counseling sessions. So
Mhm.
you're able to walk people through, and you're probably not quoting scriptures because you're not quoting scriptures, but the insight is coupled with the techniques that you have learned, and
Exactly.
you're seeing a breakthrough. You're seeing deliverances that I said people all their life they are stuck in a certain place, but when they come to you because of the two things coming together, you see breakthrough coming faster,
Mhm.
and this is what we love. And
Mhm.
I thank God for that. So I know that you counsel both men and women. You
Mhm.
counsel. What about couples? Do you counsel couples?
Mhm. Yes, I don't consider myself a marriage counselor, but
Yes.
because it's more of a training, I do work
Yes.
with couples as well. There are times they come to me. The wife may come and she's discovering herself, and sometimes I make the request, do you think your husband would do this? So that I can understand what she working with. What is she
Yes.
working with?
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and sometimes they're saying, can I come? I come. You guys seem to be having so much fun. I want to come.
So you have a beautiful open door that the husband feels comfortable to come into the counseling session with his wife.
Yes, I mean by appointment, of course.
Yes.
because he's the client, but by appointment, so I do schedule that. And yes, that's a gift from God. I want to make sure that definitely all the honor and all the glory goes to God, because yes,
Yes.
they come, they're comfortable with me. And because, that's one of the hard things about getting couples together,
Yes.
often feel one is picking on the other, or showing favoritism toward the other. But they come in and they say, no, Dr. Wilder, I accept what you're saying, and so on and so forth. And I just praise God for that. I really appreciate God for that.
That's wonderful. Now, I want to touch a little bit and ask you about you. You have a certification in death and grief therapy. We mentioned earlier that because of this pandemic, people are going through so much. You have any words for them, or how do you see? Do you work with people right now? Do you see an increase? That's my question. Do you see an increase coming through your doors because of the pandemic and all this grief that is happening?
Well, I don't come here right now. I don't have open doors. Mine is all on Zoom, radio, telephone.
Yes, that's what I meant.
So far,
Interacting.
I have aspects of it, but I can't say they've come based on that. They've come because the low self-esteem, are because they are having issues,
Okay.
and some of it, the background of it could be that, because many times, how it is. We spend a week or 2 weeks supposedly grieving, and the world tells us we got to run on. And so they've tried to do that. And now all of that is catching up with them, and they're not understanding what it really is. So part of the gift that I have is to be able to help them. Look, you never grieved. Let's work through some of this,
Mm,
Let's not keep trying to run forward. All right. It's all right to cry. It's a journey. You don't have to move as fast as other people are telling you got to move. Sometimes there are issues back there. You're blaming yourself. You're feeling guilty, about some things. Let's work through some of those things, and some of that's the whole reason they're coming, but they don't realize that's the reason they're coming.
so you pinpoint that in your counseling sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
We only have a couple of more minutes, Dr. Annie. You're a doctor, you're a pastor. You're a woman with many hats. And I've just been connected to you. I'm really blessed. I want you. I want you to pray for women specifically who are in abuse situations, who with low self-esteem, who have gone through sexual assaults, and they don't know where to turn to. I want you to pray for them.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a word to say to them, to speak, I don't know, it's very hard to do it because we only have a little time, but I believe God will have you say something to them that could break the ice and help them to go to the next level to get help. So
Mm-hmm.
I would like you to do that right now.
Yes, yes, yes. I want to just talk straight, okay, and then close it off. The point is, find a place that you can feel comfortable. There's nothing wrong, even if you're a Christian, to go to counseling. Okay, people still have a stigma against that. All right, you don't have to tell everybody. You want to get help. You want to be better. You want to be strong. You want to get to the point that person that God made you to be, because He did make you fearfully and wonderful. He did have purpose for you. He
Yes.
still has purpose for you. So
Yes.
I'm not worried about what other people are going to say. You do what you need to do for yourself.
Amen.
Okay. Now there are free support groups around. If you can afford, you're not one of those people that you want to go into a public group. Hey, come on. People have sliding scales. I have a sliding scale. Okay, get yourself a counselor. But the point is, get somewhere where you stop covering up, being honest, a place that's going to love on you, a place that's going to accept you. And I say this over and over again. If you walk into one of those places and you feel that you're not getting the love, you're not getting the support, you're not being listened to, it's just not the right one. But it doesn't mean all of them in that way. No, just go and look for another one. Okay.
Yes.
And so that's the main thing, because it's breaking the silence that begins to heal. When we break the silence, that's number one. We've got to break the silence. Stop living in silence. Okay. So that's the beginning. All right. And I beg you. Now, the other part is, yes, we talked about my books, and I can tell you on Amazon, you can find my books. Okay. This one, this one, this one. This one, when you look on Amazon, you're going to find my old one. This is just came out. Okay. I revised it to make it available to more people. I revised it specifically because I know it has so much information in there that would help. And, so now this is more affordable. So scan down on the page till you get to this one. Okay. And order my books. All right. Or order similar books. They don't have to be mine. Share them, whatever. I want you to get the content of it. All right. So over and over again, I want to say to you, you are precious. I don't care how long you've been in that abusive situation.
Yes,
I
yes.
don't care what somebody has said to you, told you how worthless you are, how
Yes.
crazy you are, how nobody will love you. You got 5 children and nobody will ever want you. They're
Yes.
lying. I'm going to say it plain, and that's what I do in my groups. They're lying. I can't sugarcoat it. They're telling you something they want you to believe so that they can keep getting over on you. You hear me?
Mm.
And if that person is listening, that's okay. Let them listen to me, all right? I'm telling you, I need you to get to a place that you begin to uncover and discover the wonderful person God made you to be. I don't care if I hear somebody saying, but they're not as fat as I am. Listen,
Oh,
God
no.
gives all different sizes. Don't let
Yes.
your weight hold you back. Somebody just said, well, he said, I'm so skinny, nobody could. Hey, that's a lie too. There's a place
Yes.
for all of us. All right. I
Yes.
learned that when I was in high school. One of my classmates, he said to me, I like big women. I'll never forget it in high school. Okay. So my point is, there's a place for all of us. Do not let any
Yes.
of those things hold you back. You're intelligent. Yes, you are.
Yes.
You're capable. You just have fallen into the wrong hands, and maybe you came up with the wrong, things being spoken to you. It's all there. Our job now is to be transformed. Let's move forward, and let's do it now before we pass along what our insecurities and everything onto the next generation. Come on,
Mm.
come on. Let's get it together so we can help.
That's good, Dr. Annie. That is really good. We don't want to pass on bad stuff. We
Yeah,
want to pass on good stuff.
exactly. So that's what this is all about, transforming, breaking the cycle. That's what we call it in my group. We're breaking the cycle. We brought
Yes.
some bad stuff over in our lives. Okay, that's okay. That's done now. But now we have a chance to do something about it. And you're the only one that can do something about it. All right.
Yes.
And then as we get healed, then our next generation, we won't pass it on to our sons and our daughters.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Right? So in Jesus' name, I just seal all that I've spoken tonight. I thank God
Yes.
that you keep blessing Sister Judy to do these kind of broadcasts and segments. And Lord God, for everyone that's listening tonight, not a
Yes.
one will be able to go away without having grasped something and be able to say to
Yes.
you, I got what I needed. In
Yes.
Jesus' name, amen and amen.
Amen. Dr. Annie, Pastor Annie, my good friend, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on. And you're going to come on again because 1 hour is not enough. I had a lot more questions to ask you, but we just set aside an hour. And before I forget, tell the people how they could get in contact with you because some people listening or they could come themselves or they might have a friend that you can help. So tell them how to get into contact with you.
Quickly, you can go to my website, Uncommon Counseling LLC.com, and you can contact me there. All right. Otherwise, my number is 860-227-1160. So my website, Uncommon Counseling, make sure you put LLC.com, and all of my offerings and a contact form is there that you can reach me and I will respond to you. All right. Otherwise, anything else you want to know about me or anything I've done, just Google Dr. Annie B. Wilder, and a whole lot of stuff is going to come up. And I pray that you get blessed from it. And remember, my work is being done through Zoom and YouTube and all of that. So, hey, I don't care what country you're in.
That's it. That's
Okay.
it. And also, I want to mention on YouTube, Google Dr. Annie B. Wilder Personal Enrichment Corner. You do an enrichment corner. It's short clips, but it's so, oh my gosh, it is so meaty. It is. I just love listening to you. How you make a point to help people in just a short clip. So you could Google Dr. Annie B. Wilder Personal Enrichment Corner and just gain insight, gain things to build you up. And again, thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Annie, for coming on. Now, I want people who, if you like this wonderfully whole conversation, you could share it with a friend. We have it on YouTube. Subscribe to my wonderfully whole channel and just be blessed. And if there's anybody that you know that is living a wonderfully whole style and have a message, just reach out to me at judy@wonderfullywhole.com. And next month is Mother's Day. We're going to be honoring mothers on the Wonderfully Whole Conversation platform. So tune in. Again, thank you so much for joining in this conversation. I know you will bless and have a great evening until I see you next month.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Dr. Annie.